All right, week 0 is rapidly approaching. So I want to today give you something this channel has never seen and this podcast feed has never heard. And that is this: college football playoff predictions. For a 12-team playoff, let's go. This is a great thing to happen for the sport of college football. If you've been a denier, anti-expander, I think you'll learn pretty quickly why college football playoff expansion will be a great thing for college football. So here's what I want to do first here. Let's flash the graphic. Give you my picks. Boom. There they are right there in front of you. Those are my 12 teams that will make the college football playoff in order. Don't you worry if you're listening to our podcast feed, Hick at Night, night spelled N-I-T-E. Don't you worry. I will give you the picks verbally right here, right now, so you're not missing out on anything, I promise. If you see the picks, if you have questions, don't worry. We will explain. So here's how I'm going to do this. I want to give it by conference first in no order. And then I'll give you my wildcard teams after that. Let's start in the ACC. This to me is a 2-team race between Clemson and Miami. I'm going with Miami. Here's why. At the end of the day, in the year of 2024, good offense beats good defense. And when you look at Miami, they are going to have not just good offense, a great offense this year. They have, just talking ACC, they have the best quarterback in the conference in Cam Ward. They have the best running back in the conference in Damian Martinez, transfer from Oregon State. They have the best group of receivers in the conference led by Xavier Restrepo. And they have one of the best offensive lines in all the country. They are going to be explosive and very hard to stop. And so when you look at now, I think their biggest challenger, Clemson, we'll get to Florida State here in a little bit. I just don't trust right now Clemson's offense, even though I think their defense is going to be very good. I don't trust Clemson's offense to keep up, to be as consistently productive. Again, good defenses in college football can only take you so far. You need to have an explosive offense. Miami does. Clemson doesn't. That, to me, is why the Hurricanes are winning the ACC. Also helps, by the way, their 2 hardest games of the season for Miami, Virginia Tech, Florida State, both at home. Now, not a great home field advantage, but hey, it sure beats going to Blacksburg, sure beats going to Tallahassee. That is for sure. Hurricanes win the ACC. The Big Ten is being won by newcomer Oregon. Again, another 2-team race between Oregon and Ohio State. Why I chose the Ducks is because the Ducks, to me, had the edge in the 2 biggest keys when it comes down to these 2 teams, quarterback and offensive line. Dillon Gabriel is going to be, I think, the best quarterback in college football this year. He is my Heisman Trophy winner. He is a perfect fit in this offense where he's surrounded by an experienced offensive line that has 144 career starts. A lot of big boys played a lot of football together. They know what the hell they're doing. That's going to protect Gabriel. A tremendous wide receiver room. Evan Stewart coming in from Texas A&M. Tez Johnson already there. A lot of talent on the outside for Dillon Gabriel to throw the ball to. He's a point guard kind of quarterback. We saw Bo Nix too. Just get the ball, get it out quickly. He's going to be able to do that very easily with all that talent around him. So to me, Oregon is going to get the edge, and they are going to win the Big Ten because they have the edge over Ohio State at quarterback and offensive line. We'll get to more the Buckeyes here a little bit later on, but I am very high on this Oregon team. Let's go to the SEC, where I think for the second time in 3 years, you are going to see the Georgia Bulldogs take the crown. Now, I want to start negative here first with Georgia because I do have some concerns. They're the preseason AP poll #1 team, rightfully so, but they are far from perfect. I don't love the fact that they are going into this year now with the dismissal of Ra Thomas, missing 4 out of their top 5 receivers. And unlike last year, their schedule is very hard. Open with Clemson and your 3 hardest games at Texas, at Ole Miss, at Alabama, as you just heard it, the ats there, all on the road. That is tough. I don't think they're going through this regular season unscathed the way they have the last few years. They are going to trip up. But why it's not enough to prevent them from winning the SEC is because, number one, they have Carson Beck, one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I was very skeptical of Beck last year early on. And his credit, he proved me wrong. Outside of the Alabama games, I know it's a sore subject there for Georgia fans and how he played, but from like the middle of the year on, I had some big questions about how well he could play. He answered a lot of those, and I think he's going to be even better here in 2024 than there was in 2023. Love that. I also love the fact that, Kirby Smart deserves the benefit of the doubt. Again, it's a lot of production at receiver, highlighted by an All-American tight end, lost last year going to this year. But Kirby's been recruiting at a level no one else is. So he deserves the benefit of the doubt because this is a guy that reloads. He doesn't rebuild. He just keeps on churning talent after talent after talent. And so I don't doubt his ability to replace a lot of those guys, including Brock Bowers, in the offense this year. Also helps when your offensive line is one of the best in the country, so Beck will have a lot of time to throw the ball. Georgia, second time in 3 years, they are your SEC champs. Big 12, also won by a newcomer. That is the Utah Utes. Cam Rising is back after missing last year. Big boost there for the Utes. And the reason why I have them, and I think for my money, from top to bottom, the most balanced conference in the country, why I give Utah the edge is because they're the most consistent and physical team in the conference. And I think the Big 12, right, has been known for volatility, where teams get hot, teams get cold, teams come out of nowhere to go to the Big 12 title game, favorites fall. Like, it is the wild, wild west out there in the Big 12 every year, it does feel like. And I think consistency is the biggest key going forward for this year. The Utes are steady hand, just go straight through. I think they'll cut through a lot of the turmoil that will be eating up the Big 12 this year. Kyle Whittingham knows what the hell he's doing. Utes first year in the Big 12, they do win the conference. All right, finally, who will be the highest ranked Group of 5 team? Remember this year, Group of 5 gets an automatic bid, highest ranked team. That automatic bid is going to the Boise State Broncos. Look what they have coming back. They have 17 starters returning from last year, including all 11 on defense. That's huge. Talk about continuity. They also now bring in quarterback Malachi Nelson, who's a big-time recruit who spent last year sitting behind Caleb Williams at USC and under Lincoln Riley. So you have a very talented quarterback going over to Boise State, a very experienced defense, and you look at the Broncos' schedule, they should be favored in every game they play except for week 2 at Oregon. We're talking about, I would say at worst, 10-2, probably 11-1. That's going to be good enough to get you the highest ranked Group of 5 bid for the College Football Playoff. Boise State, punch your ticket. You're going to the big dance. All right, so 4 plus the Group of 5 conference winners right there for you. Let's get into some wild cards here. I told you about Ohio State. We'll get to them here in a second. Let's get to them now. I don't think they're going to win the Big Ten. They are definitely making the playoff. Why they're making is obvious. So let me give you some concerns about Ohio State and why I didn't pick them to win the Big Ten. I have questions about Will Howard. I have questions about their offensive line. I think Will Howard, while more talented than Kyle McCord, I think he's going to be in the same boat, meaning what Ohio State needs is a quarterback to elevate the talent around him. Think about when they were at their best. Justin Fields, with all the great receivers and running back talent they had, Fields made those guys better. When you look at a team like last year and you have Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka and Travion Henderson, when he's healthy, is still one of the best running backs in the country. All Ohio State needs is a quarterback to make those guys a little bit better. McCord couldn't do that, and that's why Ohio State ended up on the outside looking at the playoff push and why they lost to Michigan for the 3rd time in 3 years. And I think this year, it's the same problem. So I just see, for me, Will Howard being that same vein, where I don't think he's going to be elevating the talent around him, and I just don't think that Ohio State at quarterback is going to be good enough to win a national title. Plus, I'm concerned about their offensive line. Outside of quarterback, the other reason why Ohio State's not been able to get past Michigan in part is because they've been soft on the offensive line. They haven't been able to get a push. They haven't been able to assert their will on their opponents consistently, and I don't think that's changing this year. So the quarterback is still a question mark. The offensive line to me is still soft. That's why Ohio State, still insanely talented and making the playoff and probably getting that 5 seed would be my guess right now. But that's why, for me, they are not winning the national title this year. Questions at 2 of the most important positions in all of college football. But Ohio State will be one of the 12 playoff teams, no doubt about it. They'll be joined by their brethren in the Big Ten, Penn State. There's a few things working in Penn State's favor this year. Number one, I love the hire of Andy Kotelnicki coming from Kansas. One of Penn State's biggest struggles last year was explosiveness in their offense. And the one thing Kotelnicki excels at, explosiveness. Look at Kansas last year. They are ripping off big plays no matter who's out there. So that element should now come to Penn State's offense. You have a tremendous 1-2 running back punch of Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. And you have a schedule that works drastically in your favor. The big game on the schedule, that's everyone circling, Ohio State's coming to Happy Valley. So that's good at least. You get the Buckeyes at home. Should be a rowdy, raucous atmosphere. I'll be there myself as a Penn State alum. And at least give you the best chance to beat the Buckeyes, something you haven't done since 2016. But outside of Ohio State, even if they lose that game, you look at the Nittany Lions schedule. I mean, you tell me, what is the second most difficult game on their schedule? I'll give you a few here. Is it at West Virginia? Is it at USC? Is it at Wisconsin? I mean, there's not one that stands out. So even if you lose the Ohio State game, Penn State realistically should be 11-1. At worst, 10-2. But I think they're going 11-1. Now will be good enough to get you in the playoff without a doubt. Notre Dame, to me, very similar to Penn State, where the quarterback play should be better from last year. Now, Penn State did so by bringing in offensive coordinator. Notre Dame did so by bringing in a new quarterback, bringing in Riley Leonard from Duke this year to replace Sam Hartman. But they have a lot of defensive talent, bringing back 9 starters, including 6 seniors. So it's going to be a very veteran-laden defense for Notre Dame. And the other similarity for Penn State is not only should be improved quarterback play, but it's also an easy schedule. They go to College Station to take on Mike Elko and the Aggies week number 1. Should be a great atmosphere. Notre Dame, though, is a better team. If they take care of business there, which I think they should, you look between that and the end of the season, the only other game that's truly tricky, they play Florida State at home in November, big-time advantage for Notre Dame, and then they end the year at USC. They're better than every team on their schedule. So we should be looking at, I think, at worst, Notre Dame being 11-1. Come on down. You're going to the playoff. The Irish are going to be very good this year. Schedule works in their favor as well. Mark it down. They are a playoff team. Let's go to the SEC, give you a few playoff teams from that conference. Texas. Now, that's an obvious one, so I'm not going to defend why I'm putting Texas in the playoff. Instead, I want to give you a few question marks, kind of similar to Ohio State here, that I have about the Longhorns. And to me, these are what prevent Texas from being a national title pick. Number one, don't love the fact that they are losing a ton of production, a ton of high-level production. They have lost from last year their top 5 receivers, and now with injury, their top 4 running backs, or top 3 running backs with the latest injury. So that is 8 guys they had from last year that produced at a high level, gone, not contributing here in 2024. That's a major loss. Even with how well Sark has been recruiting and doing well in the transfer portal, when you lose guys like Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, like that is just Jonathan Brooks. It's so hard to replace. The other thing, speaking of replacement, is how Texas is going to look on the interior of their defensive line. Lost 2 big-time interior defensive tackles on the draft. And Sark did a good job going in the portal. I just don't think they're going to be as good as what Texas had last year. So I think you're going to see a drop-off on the defensive line. Secondary, to me, is still a question mark, so that's not a great combo. Questions on the defensive line, questions on the secondary, questions about who's going to catch the ball. But again, those are reasons as to why they can't win a national title. They are still insanely loaded, insanely talented to make the playoff. And being, I think, even in the SEC title game. Sark has done a good job. Again, he's gone deep in the transfer portal, bringing guys, in from Alabama, otherwise to catch the football. I don't think they're as talented as what he had last year. I like Quinn Ewers a lot. So I think that unlike some other quarterbacks, he can elevate those around him. So I think Quinn is poised for a big-time year. Again, Texas is going to be at worst 10-2. They have a lot of talent, and their schedule works in their favor where their 2 biggest games of the year, Georgia and Oklahoma, neither of them on the road. Dogs come to Austin, and obviously we know Red River in Dallas every single year, that neutral site game. So the schedule works in Texas's favor. They're still very talented. Again, just questions in terms of them winning a national title. That's why I have them as a playoff team, not a national title team. Back like they never left. The Alabama Crimson Tide. Oh, you thought they were going down with Nick Saban retiring? Hell no. Kalen DeBoer is a winner. The guy wins everywhere. Sioux Falls, Washington. That is going to continue now at Alabama. He is going to make Jalen Milroe the best version of himself, because one thing Kalen DeBoer does better than most coaches, he knows how to play to a player's strengths. What Milroe does well, he is going to lean into them. He's not going to make Milroe, be like Michael Penix Jr., throw the ball 45 times a game. He's going to cater to what Milroe is comfortable with and build the offense around that. They still have a ton of talent, even though some big names did leave in the transfer portal this offseason. Still a lot of talent at Alabama. The defensive talent's going to be elite. And they do have some of their hardest games at home. Georgia comes to Tuscaloosa. Missouri comes to Tuscaloosa. LSU, Oklahoma are on the road, but those two teams are manageable. So again, the schedule works for Alabama. Got a ton of talent. Kalen DeBoer, man, he is a winner. Don't sleep on him. Alabama making the college football playoff. All right, we got two teams left here. Ole Miss is one of those two teams making the college football playoff. Their offense, I think, is just going to be too good to fail. Jackson Dart, I think, now will have his best year under Lane Kiffin. They have a three-headed monster at receiver. But the real reason why I have Ole Miss, because they've had an explosive offense before. Right? That's not crazy to watch Ole Miss have a good offense. The difference for me is they finally, on both lines of scrimmage, got tougher, got bigger, got better. Lane did a great job in the transfer portal, highlighted by number one recruit Walter Nolan coming over from Texas A&M on the defensive line. They actually got tough. They actually got big. For a while, Ole Miss was all flash, no substance. Right? They could throw the ball all over the yard, but if you want to play bully ball with them, they fall down. They're paper tigers. Now Ole Miss can actually play some big boy football in the trenches. They can get a push. That is tremendous. So even though they lose the best running back in college football for my money this year in Quinshon Judkins, run game should be fine. Defensive line should get some pressure, so that defense should get better. I love the moves Lane has made this offseason to get this program tougher. Something Ole Miss has been missing now for a while. Good for you, Lane. That is enough for me to get them in the playoff. And finally, the last, but certainly not least team here making the college football playoff in the inaugural 12-team season is, drumroll please, the Missouri Tigers. Now, look, I like their veteran presence led by Brady Cook at quarterback. They have the best receiver in college football in Luther Burden III. Stud receiver. But honestly, this is not taking anything away from Missouri. But you look at their schedule. I don't know how they're not winning double-digit games, bare minimum, how they're not in the playoff. Like, their schedule alone is going to put them in the playoff. Again, they're, as you know, in the SEC. Listen to who they don't play this year in the SEC. They don't play Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, LSU. Now, they do go on the road to Alabama. But outside of that Bama game, you look at their schedule and who they are not playing and who they are playing, Mizzou should be favored in the other 11 games they play. So with that explosive offense that they have, I know they lose their defensive coordinator going to LSU. Defense was very good last year, so let's just assume it takes a little bit of a step back with Blake Baker not being there anymore. Still, that schedule, bare minimum alone, plus a veteran talent on offense, Mizzou is going to win 11 games. And you win 11 games, even if you win 10 games, if you're Mizzou and they lose a game, maybe they shouldn't. They are going to the playoff. So Mizzou I have in as the 12th and final team, not in that order, but at least in this little segment here, the last team we name here, those are the 12 teams making the college football playoff. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to flash a graphic here one more time for you to soak it in. Those are the rankings I do think, or I should say seedings, I do think you'll see those teams sitting at. If you're listening on the podcast, at least I'll give you the top four here. Oregon at 1, Georgia 2, Miami 3, Utah 4. And in the national title game, I have Oregon taking on Georgia in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, where Dan Lanning learned the hard way a few years ago as Oregon's head coach in his first game. How tough it is to beat Georgia in Atlanta, but he gets his revenge. The Ducks are winning the national title. Who do I leave out of the college football playoff picture that you think should be in? Who am I overvaluing? Who am I disrespecting? Who is your national title pick? Comment on YouTube. If you're listening on our podcast feed, Hick at Night, Night spelled N-I-T-E. Number one, thank you for listening there. We appreciate that. 2 ways to get your voice heard. Tweet me, Ryan_Hickey and the number 3, or check me out on YouTube. Ryan Hickey's our channel. Go there, comment on the video as well. Love to hear your thoughts. Let's go. College football season is almost here. An historic year. Let's go.